Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into the hidden history of something we all use but maybe don't think about, how we plug things into our computers. It's a really cool story, actually, a journey from total cable chaos to the sleek, simple world we're in now. And it makes you wonder, what's coming next?
You know the feeling, right? You peek behind your desk and it's just a spaghetti monster of wires, every single one with a different, confusing plug. Well, if you've ever felt that frustration, you're not alone. That whole mess is the result of decades of tech evolution, a story of a ton of competing ideas that, thankfully, slowly gave way to simplicity.
So, just to make sure we're on the same page, what even is a port? Think of it like this. It's basically a docking point. It's a physical gateway on your computer that lets it talk to the outside world, whether that's your printer, your monitor, or your keyboard.
All right, let's rewind the clock. We're going back to a time before our nice, tidy, modern world of tech. We're entering an era of, let's call it, extreme specialization. It really felt like every single device you owned needed its own unique, often super clunky, and stubbornly incompatible port.
Back in the day, the two big players for moving data were the serial and parallel ports. And the best way to get your head around them is to think of them as roads. The serial port, that was like a slow, single-lane country road. It sent data just one little bit at a time, which was totally fine for something slow like an early mouse. But the parallel port, that was a multi-lane superhighway. It pushed a whole bunch of data all at once, which is why it became the standard for printers that needed that extra speed.
Oh man, and who could forget these guys? The PS2 port. Now, the color coding was actually pretty clever. It kept you from plugging your mouse into the keyboard slot by accident. But it also showed you just how rigid everything was back then. There was one job for the green port, one job for the purple port, and that's it. No swapping, no flexibility.
For years, the undisputed king of connecting your monitor was this classic blue VGA port. But, and this is a big but, it had a huge limitation. It only carried the picture, the video signal. If you wanted sound, you needed a totally separate cable plugged into a totally separate audio port. Now, remember that detail, because it becomes really important in a minute.
And believe me, the list just goes on. It was a whole ecosystem of competing standards. You had SCSI for daisy-chaining things like hard drives and scanners together. You had eSATA, a special port just for faster external drives. And of course, you had FireWire, which was Apple's go-to for high-speed gear like video cameras. Seriously, the back of a PC from that time looked like a puzzle box.
And then, out of all this complexity and user frustration, a hero emerged. A brand new standard came along with a simple yet totally revolutionary goal. Create one universal serial bus that could hopefully replace almost everything else.
And the impact was just a tidal wave of simplification. Those separate purple and green ports for your keyboard and mouse? Replaced. That big clunky parallel port for your printer? Gone. Your modem, your scanner, and this whole new type of device we now take for granted, the flash drive, all of a sudden they spoke one common language, USB.
So that brings us to the modern era. The one-port idea didn't just stop with USB. The next wave of innovation was all about cramming even more power and more function into single, elegant connections.
Okay, so remember our old friend the VGA port, the one that could only handle video? This is where that problem gets solved. HDMI came along and asked a really simple question. Why are we using two cables when one will do the job? It bundled high-definition video and high-quality audio into one single, simple port, and basically cleaned up our TV stands and desks forever.
Now, even as all these other ports were being combined, one specialist has managed to survive this entire journey, the Ethernet port. It looks kind of like an oversized phone jack, and it has one single purpose, giving you that fast, super stable, wired connection to the internet. Look, wireless is convenient, but for pure speed and reliability, you still can't beat plugging right in. And that leads us to today's reigning champion, USB-C. This thing is the culmination of that whole all-in-one dream. First, it's reversible. No more fumbling and flipping the plug 3 times to get it in. Second, it's unbelievably versatile. It can handle data, video, and audio all at once. And third, It's so powerful it can charge not just your phone, but your entire laptop. It's the one port that is genuinely threatening to do it all.
But even in this super universal world, some specialists still hang on. And here's a cool shout out to the musicians out there. The MIDI port. This thing has been around for decades, and it is still the gold standard for connecting keyboards, synths, and drum machines to a computer. It's just a perfect example of a legacy port that still does its one specific job better than anything else.
Okay, so we've gone from a dozen specialized ports down to one universal port. What could possibly be next? Where do you go from there? Well, how about no port at all? The final stage in this story of simplification is getting rid of the cable entirely.
Today's wireless world really runs on two key technologies that you can think of as invisible ports. You've got Wi-Fi, which uses radio waves to connect your computer to the network and the internet, and then you have Bluetooth, which uses short-range radio waves to connect devices, like your headphones or your mouse, directly to your computer. So, one connects you out to the world, the other connects things to you.
The entire journey we've just taken can really be distilled down into this one powerful idea. We went from a dozen specialized ports to one universal port, and now we're moving toward no port at all, which of course leaves us with a really fascinating question. As wireless charging and wireless data transfer get faster and more reliable every single year, are we actually witnessing the twilight of the physical port? Could the computer of the future be just a perfectly seamless slab with no openings at all? The next chapter in the story might be the one where the port vanishes completely. Thanks for joining this Explain.